Everyone, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we will talk about the nervous system. Actually, this lesson 5 is talking about nervous and endocrine system. Why they put them together in one lesson? Because they have a similarity, if you remember from the first lesson. I'm not in front of you to ask you this question, so I will answer myself how they are similar. The endocrine system and the nervous system both control our body actions, but in different ways. The nervous system controls our body actions and reactions by sending electrical messages or electrical signals, while the endocrine system controls the body actions and reactions by sending hormones, chemical messages. This we talk about it in the first lesson, if you remember. Now we will talk in details about the nervous system. We will spend the whole week talking about it. I will send to you 3 lectures about the nervous system, inshallah. This is the first one. The nervous system is made up of the structures that control actions and reactions of the body in response to stimuli in the environment. We will see that we will receive sensation from the environment, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we smell, what we touch. All of these sensations come from the environment. Okay? Then how our body will react, how our body will act depending on these sensations that we receive. Okay, these are responses to the stimuli in the environment. We will see that the actions that will be controlled by the nervous system are divided into 2 main parts: voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary and involuntary. What is the meaning of voluntary and involuntary? Like what we studied in the muscular system, voluntary means what we can control, involuntary, what we can't control. This is in general. Now let's say what make up the nervous system. The nervous system is made up of the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves. Again, the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves. Actually, they divided the nervous system into 2 main parts, which are the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord that are colored in orange here in this picture. The brain and the spinal cord, as you see. This is the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is made up of all the other nerves in the body. Peripheral nervous system, PNS, which is in the purple here. The central nervous system, CNS, I want to stop for this abbreviation CNS because I think most of you have heard this abbreviation before. What is it? CNS, drugs that affect the CNS, some diseases that take place in the CNS. Now you know what is the CNS. It is the central nervous system that is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. Now here also in this picture I want to explain it. The central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, are connected to the peripheral nervous system, the rest of the nerves. Then the rest of the nerves or the peripheral nervous system will be divided into 2 main parts that are the sensory and the motor. What's the meaning of sensory and motor? I will explain it now quickly, then we will talk about it in more details when we take the nerves. The sensory means the part of the nerves that receive the sensation from our five senses. The part of the nerves or the nerves that receive the sensation from our five senses. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, when you touch, what you smell, what you taste, all of these will be moved by the sensory nerves. Then the motor nerves. The peripheral nervous system also includes the motor nerves. What are the motor nerves? The motor nerves will send the messages to our body parts to act. Any action, if it was voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary, they give another word here for voluntary, which is somatic. Somatic means voluntary action. I want to read, I want to drink, I want to eat, I want to move, I want to play, to do any action that I want. This is somatic. Automatic, involuntary. My heart is beating. This is involuntary. My stomach, my small intestine are digesting the food. This is involuntary, automatic. These are automatic motor actions. So the motor nerves are responsible for somatic actions, and automatic actions means voluntary and involuntary. Okay, we will talk about this again when we take the two types of neurons. Okay, like this we are done from, I think, the first page in the book. Then we will talk about the brain and the spinal cord. The parts of the brain. Actually, the brain is the most important part in our nervous system. It is the command of our nervous system and of all our body, you can say. What make up the brain? The brain is divided into three main parts. As you see here, this is the brain here, and they make it separated to the three parts to show you what are the three parts. The first part is the largest part, which is the cerebrum. Then the one that is behind it, the cerebellum. Then the one down, that is the brain stem. The brain stem, here it is clearer. The brain stem is clearer here in this part. This is the cerebrum. Here is the cerebellum. And here is the brain stem. Here is the brain stem. Okay, now, what are the main functions of each? I summarized them for you as 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, to make it easier for you. The first one is the cerebrum, and it is the largest part of the brain. It includes all the centers inside your brain that needs thinking and that needs intelligence. So it is where you think, where you solve problems, where you store memories. It controls also all the voluntary movements or all the voluntary actions, such as there are centers or there are specific points inside your cerebrum for each voluntary action. For example, there is a center for for problem solving, center for writing, center for talking, center for reading, learning languages, memorizing. You understand? Everything. Every particular voluntary action has a specific center inside your cerebrum. Then it processes all the information from your senses. What does that mean? It means it interprets for us everything we receive by any of our senses, such as our eyes for the sight. What do we see? An image that we have seen will be transferred by the nerve to the brain. Then the brain will interpret for us, what is this image? What is it? Is it a tree? Is it a flower? Is it a chair? What is it? Anything that we can see. What is the sound that we have heard? Okay, without the interpreting of the brain, we can't realize anything from our five senses. Okay, what does that mean? So please study them very well. Then the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the second part here. The second large part, which is responsible to keep tracking our body position and to keep our body in balance. It coordinates movements. It helps us to move in a good way. Okay, so if you want to move, two parts of your brain are responsible for that. Your cerebrum will send the messages to your muscles to move. Your cerebellum will keep tracking your body, will keep you in balance. Okay? The last part is the brainstem. Here is the brainstem. As you see, this part in yellow, that appears here in yellow. It is the part that connects the brain to the spinal cord. Also, it includes a small part in the bottom of the brain. This small part is called the medulla. The medulla is responsible for the involuntary actions. Your heartbeat, your breathing during the night, your any involuntary action is controlled by the medulla. That's it. So these are the three parts of our brain. Very important to study them very well and to distinguish between their functions. Here they ask a question. Describe the part of the brain that made one activity that you did today possible. What does that mean? Yani remember any of your actions that you did today. Which part of your brain is responsible for that? Maybe you will say that I read in my book. I read in my book. What is responsible for that? Okay, for sure the cerebrum. Yes, as what we said. If you say that I went to somewhere, which part is responsible for that? Actually, two parts. The first part is the cerebrum. The second part is the cerebellum, because it tracks your movement and it keeps you in balance. That's it. Now we will talk about the spinal cord and we will finish for today. The spinal cord is a bundle of nerves that are protected by bones called vertebrae. Here is the spinal cord, as you see. It is a bundle of nerves, يعني group of nerves that come together like a bundle, and this bundle is protected by the vertebrae. As you see here, the cut that show you how the vertebra surrounds the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is a bundle of nerves protected by bones called vertebrae. I want to stop here for today, and inshallah tomorrow we will continue talking about the nerves. Before talking about the nerves, I want to show you to explain this picture here in the book that shows the spinal cord, how there are two types of nerves come from the spinal cord. These two types are motor and sensory nerves. Motor nerves and sensory nerves. This is the spinal cord that is surrounded by a circle, and the sensory nerves that refers to by red color, and the motor nerves that referred to by blue color. Type. What is the difference between them? The sensory nerves bring sensory information. Well, as I told you, sensory information. For example, you touch something hot. This will be moved by the sensory neurons, sensory nerves to the spinal cord. Then the motor information come also from the spinal cord, sending a message to the body parts to move, to do anything. Sometimes some actions will be done directly without going to the brain. For sure, the sensory information, they come to the spinal cord, then the spinal cord will take them to the brain. Then the brain send the message if there is any action will be done, send the signals to the spinal cord, then the spinal cord will send the message through the motor nerves. Sometimes some actions will be done without going to the brain. Such if you are in danger. How? You touch something that is very hot. You will move your hand without thinking, right? You move your hand before you realize that it was very hot, or your hand will burn. You will remove your hand, then you will understand what happened, right? This type of action is called reflexes. Reflexes that take place without going to the brain. Okay, you will feel that it is very, very hot by the sensory nerves. Then this will go to the spinal cord. The spinal cord will send order by the motor neurons or the motor nerves to move your hand quickly. Then the message will come to your brain to can interpret what happened. This type of actions is called reflexes. Okay, I want to stop here. Inshallah, tomorrow we will, or in the next period of life, we will continue talking about the nerves and the neurons, inshallah.